And away we go.
Yeah?
Yeah. Make sure that we're actually streaming. Crunch. All right, cool.
Oh.
Okay.
The data gets less flexible in its meaning and in its schema when it's used by code in multiple processes, multiple services or whatever. That's why microservices get their own database.
Right.
So, and yet, so you want like the data to be scoped within the larger system, which is the code. The particular set of code, module of code. Yet, when at the same time you get that same effect, code becomes harder to change and more dangerous to change when it's used in multiple applications.
Yeah.
And that gets into code reuse. And that gets into my production grade software rant.
Where are we at in the talk right now?
Okay. Nowhere. Right.
Like what? Where are you coming in?
I want to come in at the beginning. Okay, so we talked about starting from a story about, as a junior developer, the expectation is we learn data modeling. In fact, the healthy expectation is to learn data modeling. Nachos. And yet, but we do this in order to work with the code. And just we learn. I'm not sure how we transition from the story into the structure of our talk.
We don't have to start with that story.
True. We like it though.
Yeah.
I don't have a better idea.
I mean, so I had one idea for how to do that.
Yeah.
It might be different from what you were thinking. I mean, my perception of that experience was that it was very confused. It was very confused in terms of what level are we operating at here. And it wasn't just a confusion of like, which of these two levels are we operating at here? It was a juxtaposition of at least 3 levels. And bouncing back and forth between it because I'm coming at it from, okay, we have a system to implement, So obviously we're going to start with looking at stakeholders and workflows, which
Like
is
up here.
Yeah,
Up here.
yeah, like way up.
Mhm. And they
My-
wanted to leap downward.
But they were talking about at two different levels of leap downward as well, because they're talking about like selection of infrastructure, Rails, MySQL, that kind of architecture, technical infrastructure architecture, and then they were also talking about data modeling, which those are two very different levels of technical infrastructure and data
Yeah, it's
modeling.
kind of a different descent.
Yeah. So I mean, like my sense of that overall experience was, what the hell level are we actually operating at here? Do you even know? Or are you even aware of how you're juxtaposing different levels of architecture here? So the transition to me, or the first transition that came to mind when you suggested using that, was something along the lines of, so let's talk about levels.
Oh, okay.
Let's talk about the levels that we operate at, the levels of abstraction
I
that
like
we
that.
operate at in software, or as developers.
I like that. I could draw this diagram in VR, except scaling. And then we can take a screenshot of zoom in,
That's true. That'd be cool.
because I do have approximately infinite zoom in that medium, which I love.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that because let's just put the structure of the talk up front,
Yeah.
and that gives people a memory to hang on.
Yeah, I mean, I think you were coming at it from an angle of, let's start with data modeling.
Right. I
Let's
like
start with this
this.
focus on-
I like let's talk about levels,
Yeah, because I mean,
because talking about levels is going to help us with data modeling.
Yeah.
I have eaten my nachos,
Good job.
except for this chip. Okay, so right now we have notes scattered around, and we wanted to put them on the
There it
post-its.
is. Okay, so we got notes in here. Let's get all these out.
We got the program. Oh, I'll transcribe these. Let's put them on post-its so we can assemble a talk. Right. Spaceship. That's important, but that's not this talk. Spoken words are so much richer than letters. No, not this talk. In the dark. Noise cancellation, not this talk. The individual human level works very differently. That is in this talk.
Those blue. Oh, they're there.
There's consciousness only the level of the individual human. Very differently. Escaping the push of top-down constraints on change.
Bless you.
Excuse me. Oh, there's the federalism. Decentralization. Federalism. Yeah, because the levels above have to change more slowly. That's a thing. Detailed receipts, lack of trust, immune response. Yeah, that's not this talk. Pressure for uniformity prevents learning. Is that in this talk? I don't know. Some top-down constraints are enabling. Observability. Inward from humans metaphor, bone. Why did I want to go inward? What was my thing about the skin yesterday? The kind of protection.
Mode, delineations between modes, between
The wider system giving the smaller systems freedom. Safety. Oh, safety.
to exist differently in a different mode.
That's interesting. Yeah, your organ, it's not allowed to do absolutely anything, but it is allowed to do what it does.
I'm gonna go ahead and
At
capture
constant
this
temperature.
original version on it.
Cool.
Sticky.
Job of the code is to change the data. Our job is to change the code. But it's not to type, it's to decide what to change the code to. So it's designing code. But the thing is, the code by itself isn't useful until the rest of the system uses it, which means we need to design change. The only way to get better at that is to get good at changing ourselves.
That's the original formulation.
Right. And that, yeah, we may still talk about that.
I said something about Docker letting code move around in ways it couldn't before. I'm not sure if that's relevant. Scaling and developer to developer. I mean, it's code moving through time and space.
Docker is?
Yeah, but I don't think that's.
Okay.
I'm not sure we're looking at that.
Yeah. Spend time at
Every level.
every level, zoom in, zoom out. At time like thought?
Yeah. That was your. I think that was something you said.
Okay. I say zoom in, zoom out a lot.
Yes, you do.
Because I've observed that it's really painful. And this analysis helps me see some of why it's so painful.
Because it's not fractal. Is one
Because
reason.
it's not fractal.
It's not fractal. It's not.
Right.
We use different modes of comprehension at the different
Right.
levels. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you
Different
want.
modes of integration and yeah.
Work has no value. Yeah, we got excited when we got to your work has no value.
Did we?
In that original conversation, writing code or work has no value.
The value happens in a larger system. Meaning, yeah, and that value, meaning, those are related. Inward from humans metaphor. I don't remember why I wanted a metaphor going inward to humans. But did you see Richard Cook's talk about bone as the exemplar of resilience?
Not yet, it's on my list.
Okay, it's a fun one. We're not really talking about resilience in this talk. All right, that's the notes relevant to this talk from there. Give me my yellow notebook. Come here, yellow notebook. Ooh, I wanted. Yeah, I need to. Okay, don't think about D&D right now, Jess. This is not the time. That's your next talk.
We have that.
Jumping a level of
Abstraction.
abstraction. By stretching out along the axis of time. Yes, that's a core thesis. Yeah,
It's
you do need to go down.
easy to say broaden your perspective.
Oh. Ooh. Really? Does it? Yeah. Check this out. You have to be able to see behind the curtain in order to write the curtain. N.K. Jemisin. That was about a very different topic, but I think it works here. Designing change means changing the context, not the thing itself. Yeah, in the case of software, we will eventually change the thing itself. In the case of humans, the thing will change itself when we change the context. Okay. What? Oh, okay. Migrations alter the meaning of the data to the code, driven by software system change. It's isolated to a single service. That's not that bad. Okay. The level above provides the meaning. The level below provides the means.
I know what I meant by this. Impactful systems are teachable in relation to a broader system.
Teachable in relation to a broader system.
Yeah, I don't know if I meant
I'm not
we
sure.
can teach the system or we can teach people about the system.
I guess Teachable in that sense sounds like it means react to the broader system to fit in. Code level. Something about functional programming, something. Software systems change reality, create new worlds. You can be great at changing a particular system, or good at changing yourself to be good at changing a new system. Yeah, that's a thing. Create new worlds. Let's see. You can be, just write everything down, Jess, so you can put the notebook away and not take it to San Francisco. Changing one system, or good at changing yourself, like acquiring models of new systems. To learn to get good at changing new systems. My handwriting is not spectacular today. Maybe I should change my context, meaning like my ergonomics, and that would change my handwriting. Thinking in models is something we don't teach well, we don't talk about well, we don't realize we're doing it. We may realize we're doing it at the data level, maybe. But in fact, we're doing it at every level, including and especially ourselves. That was not about this topic, but it is now. Okay. Nora Jemison learned how to realize when her models were failing through anti-racism training as a psychologist. Yeah. We see the system we grew up in as natural. We see the system we're familiar with as natural. We see the level we're familiar with as natural. Whether that be transactions or process, people process. I don't know. At least we're all humans, so as developers, we have to be familiar with at least the code level and the human level. Yeah, I don't have a notation for the models. Where's my phone? I just want to take a picture of this quote. I don't want to copy it down because I probably don't want it, but I do want to take it to San Francisco. Where is my phone? Phone! Damn it. Probably downstairs. Avdi's probably in the bathroom again. He doesn't feel good today. This is fine, Jess. Oh! There it is. Oh! I missed text from Ren. Sorry. Yeah, an hour and a half ago she said, please come pick me up in half an hour. Oops, she made it home. What am I doing? Focus. You're taking a picture of this quote. There. Okay. Moving on to extract things. We did this. We did this. We did this. We did that. And we did that. Data, transactions, code, functional programming, to object-oriented. The service level and then messaging. So then the software system. I don't know. I don't know. Within the levels, these systems are not fractal. We can have fractal models only within a level. That gets to that important point that I know we have on here somewhere. Oh, it's in here. Mindsets are not fractal. Okay. Yeah, that's this. At the extreme, the important part about that is that you can't scale Agile to the enterprise. Okay, moving on. The change paradigm is we zoom out, find the next level by projecting outward in time. We probably have that, but that is a theme. I think Avdi wrote it down. I'll write it down again, because it's a theme. Find the next level by projecting outward in time. Great. Meaning is found in the next wider system. I have that somewhere. Optimization, better, is defined by the next level. Which is that meaning. But we had something yesterday about there's not a better. There's only more appropriate.
Oh, yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, we are not converging
Right.
on perfect.
Right. We are converging on that perfect is temporary.
Yeah.
Because this is not thermodynamic equilibrium. We are nowhere near equilibrium.
Right.
This is not an equilibrium system, or near equilibrium system.
And it's a very quick leap from saying we are not converging on perfection to saying done is dead.
Cool. Do we have done is dead on a post-it? I'm going to put it on a post-it. Because that's one of my favorite things.
Yeah.
And what's the positive side of that coin is keep learning to keep living. You don't get better teams by putting them around other teams. Cultures don't react. Works on people, not on cultures. Okay. Doop-doo. Don't forget to dance.
Yeah, I don't know if that's gonna make it in.
That's fine. I'll put it on a post-it anyway. With the fancy A. Can design the change or design the endpoint. Oh yeah, yeah. That but never both. Designing the endpoint is in conflict with designing change. Because we design change from the inside. Yeah. Yeah. At least we do.
Hmm.
Static persons don't design change. Oh, nice.
Nice.
That was you.
Marketing is trying to make your future intersect with the system. That had to be you. I love that.
Oh. Oh, that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember. Geronimo?
That was that was like, let's see, the period of free association.
Okay. Okay. That's just leaping into the unknown.
Yeah, I was looking for like an image like dancing but different.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And a different kind of safety. People need to be safe within their team. I'm not sure how the software system is safe. The code needs to be safe within the software system because it has smooth deploys, it has feature flags, so we can safely change the code. Data needs to be safe within its code, as in we know which code is accessing it, and we know we can change it.
Yeah.
Teams need to be safe within their organization, and that is what we have not scaled. None of those scaling agile frameworks, especially the one named safe, make teams safe.
Right.
Yeah, rewrites. The opposite. Yeah. When we get hung up on the insides. I don't know what that is. It just says rewrites. Ooh, code needs neighborhoods. That is so cool. Different eras of design. Love that. Learning looks like waste afterward. I love that one.
Yeah.
Oh, I have one. We aren't designing systems. When we design code, we aren't designing systems, we're designing subsystems. And if you think about everything that you work on as a subsystem, that helps. Wow. I think we might have some things to say. Constraints come from your neighbors and materials. I'm not entirely sure what but I'll write it down.
Yeah, and like designing something, you're constrained partly by your neighbors. Like in a house, you design constrained by your neighbors and from the and by the materials that are available.
That's a thing. Elements of design change. I want like another color or something. Stretch. We don't have any obnoxious green yet. Okay. So we talked about introduce discomfort. Where we are is not where we want to stay. We have changed the context as opposed to the thing itself.
We made it, we lived.
Evelyn!
Welcome back.
We have become aware of the larger system with a time axis.
Just this big comment.
There was a train on the way there and a different train on the way back.
Wow.
Artie Gold says, beware of the number of levels, at least those visible from the outside. They end up promoting deep queues. Features tend to be vertical, cross-cutting multiple layers, each of which ends up needing some attention. It also later encourages a lot of horizontal work. The metric of how many files/layers/code bases do I have to touch to make a change can be valuable. Y'all made me think. Must run. May check in later. Thanks.
Thank you.
Cool.
Yeah, my assumption is that we have to change all the levels, usually. I mean, in the sense of if we want a change in the business, we're probably going to need to change the software
Yeah.
and the people. And when we change the software, we definitely have to change some code. And often that involves changing data. Yeah, and there's like layers within this too, because we're not talking about a layered architecture. That's completely within code.
Right. Alright, that's it for this notebook. Ask about reduce your
There's a lot in this yellow one. Agent of change must also be changed. That's pretty. I don't know. Yeah, convincing people of that. That's a tough one, about the agent of change must also be changed, because it feels really core to me, but it also feels like breathing.
Yeah.
Which means I don't know how to communicate it. It's obvious. I can't explain it. But in a complex system, the point is that we can't design the wider, just the endpoint. We can't understand everything. So we need to embrace surprise. And by the agent of change must also be changed, I really just mean you're gonna learn shit. And if you don't learn shit as you go along, ain't gonna work.
You're not going to change. You're not going to be a very good agent of change.
Yeah. Okay, these green ones are elements of design and change. Ooh. Another color. No, not pink. Anything but pink. I'm writing on a pink post-it. Don't want to be constrained by the future. I love that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we think of ourselves as constrained by the past.
Yeah, but we also often try to be constrained by the future.
Well, yeah, and the funny thing is that...
You don't like this.
Is it the minty one? Mm. It's the oldest. I enjoy not liking that.
Okay.
It's that kind of pain.
That kind of pain, yeah. You know it must be working because it tastes terrible.
Here, how about this? We think we're constrained by the past. We're actually constrained by imagining the future to be the same.
Oh yeah. That's true.
We're actually constrained by our own projection of that past into the future.
Yeah.
There's a big design up front. When we talked about landing zones, or islands, I like landing zones because it's not my word, and I'd rather enlarge someone else's idea than try to start a new one. Okay, let's see, I wanted to label these. I need pens. I am without pens. Where's that set?
I'm not hungry.
This one?
You're not hungry? Who's she talking to? Maybe her sister. Look at this beautiful set of pens. Ooh, this is perfect. We think engineering is rigorous, yeah. And there are levels at which we can be rigorous. We can be rigorous with our transactions. We can be rigorous with our functional programming and our tests.
Yeah, it just looks different at the different levels.
It looks different at the different levels. And at the higher levels, rigor means checking.
Write that one down.
Okay.
Just check.
deterministic plans, that's hindsight. It is not, in fact, 2020. It is extremely biased. Everything happens for a reason. Everything causes something, and if you accept that something is what should be, then sure, it's a reason. Is it a surprise that we need to be better and better parts of better and better systems?
That was the other day.
It was the other day.
And I think we've moved on from better to like more appropriate.
More appropriate. Oh, okay. So external and internal. Like how our software treats us matters. Okay, and then so yeah. Yep. Errors need to propagate internally to I never remember how to spell propagate.
Yeah, I always forget that one too, whether it's O or A.
Yep. I think it's probably an A, which is good because it's easy to turn an O into an A.
True.
Okay,
Yeah, I think it's an A.
good. All right. Excuse me. Today I've done one laundry. And we did a little bit of diagramming. And that's as far as we've got. Okay. That's that notebook. All right, what do you think?
We have many notes. I've put a few together that are definitely the same idea.
Okay.
You have many notes.
Wow, look at them all.
I don't think they're useful on this sticky right now. They're just sort of there.
On here?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course not. They're just in the way.
Do we want to sort of group them? What do you usually do at this point?
Usually invent a process, of course.
Ah.
Invent a notation. You'd think I were a Lisp programmer.
Yes. Yes, you're a really good Lisp programmer.
Okay, so at this point, I feel like we need to increase the size. Okay.
We do need the whole floor.
I want to pinch both controllers and do this to make all of this smaller so that I have more room.
Well, we could clear off more of the floor,
Yes.
and we could just like lay a bunch of stickies, a bunch of big stickies down,
Yes. Or just stick things
or
to the
just
floor.
stick things to the floor. Yeah. If we
Yeah, I
put
probably have a roll of
if
paper
we put
somewhere.
paper down, we can draw
on
arrows
that, yeah.
between clumps.
This giant piece of paper is not literally, it's not a Post-it. The Post-it ones are way more expensive.
Oh, okay. Really? Yeah, I guess that makes
Yeah,
sense.
and I'm like, there's tape.
Right.
Which there is tape. Is this rug gonna move? Is it?
That was my. Oh, is it to like?
I mean,
taped
it's
down?
no, it's not taped down. It's just under the file cabinet. That's all. And this monitor over here, which can move. Is it even under the file cabinet? I'm not sure it is. Yeah, a little bit. There. Okay. I made this rug myself. Can you tell?
I know you did.
Now you can definitely tell.
Cool.
Duct tape. Okay. I'm gonna move it this way.
Paisley duct tape.
It's patterned. I'm actually kind of done with this rug. I want a different one.
Do you want me to?
I might leave it out for a while.
The nearest broom. Downstairs.
Broom?
I was just gonna sweep off a little bit before we
Yeah.
try to stick things to the floor.
I probably have one somewhere, but I don't recall, so I might as well not.
Okay.
Downstairs then.
Downstairs.
Okay, so I'll put this up here. Oh, hey, if you're going down, would you take this?
Yeah.
It's in my way. Thanks. All right. This is trash. Okay, we have increased our available space. Pick up some pens. Let's see. None of this one's shit. Okay, probably those others are too. Oh well. Let's see. Throw some Post-it or Sharpies back in. There's some markers back in. These belong in the little orange house. Oh, where's the little orange house? Oh, that is up there. Okay. It's there. It's there.
I found a tiny broom.
Tiny broom. Oh, wow. You did. It's like decorated, right?
Hmm.
I'll get myself out of the way. That's like,
Oh yeah.
yeah, it was, I don't know, part of a costume or something. Oh, hey, there's that cup holder. I like that cup holder. Thanks. That was like a freebie in some Amazon package from China, and I like it.
Cool.
Stand up, act like you like each other. Okay. These are pretty. Here's a piece of paper. We wrote on it yesterday, but we can use it back. There we go.
Do you have some masking tape?
That green tape is in there. There's masking tape downstairs. One thing I enjoy about the team in Dearborn, the team room, it's a bunch of Agile people, and there are Post-its everywhere. Just like every meeting is mostly people writing on Post-its and then categorizing them.
Nice.
Like, and someone was like, "Hey Tom, do you have some masking tape?" And he was like, "I got blue, red, green. If you wanted the boring stuff, I got that too."
Awesome.
Yeah, I like it.
I actually do want the boring stuff for this. You said downstairs?
It might be in the first drawer in the kitchen.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's in the sunglasses drawer.
Okay. Which is in the...
In the closet.
Yeah.
Okay. Missed. I probably have a roll of paper, but I don't think that's going to be a benefit. Right, so if we can... Yeah, the question here is, can we make a thread through most of these? I am at the point now where I want to, like, attempt to talk. I have an urge to talk through some of it, pieces of it,
Okay.
which is totally compatible with what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
There's a story about an interview and how you thought we were talking about architecture, but they're like, aren't you gonna make a data model? And you're like, what level are we talking about here? You're gonna tell the story because it's your story.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, data modeling is important. When I started as a developer, I lucked out in that I learned some data modeling. I got in with the DBAs and got my book on Oracle. People actually laugh at, just kidding, I bought it myself. That's one of the, I don't think it's funny, but other people think it's funny, so I keep saying it. In my Samantha talk. I think it's a little funny, but most of the things that I think are funny, other people don't. I got in with the DBAs, I learned the data modeling, and I learned how to denormalize, I learned about transactions, and this was super important. But then but that's just one level. And frankly, I feel lucky that I got that opportunity because it's not the level we work at most of the time. Usually we're less interested in modeling the data than changing it, but not changing it ourselves, of course. We want the code to change it. That's a level. And then we want the code to change it. And in fact, if we think about how the code is changing the data, we might get better at data modeling. So we have an example that we pulled straight out of the Domain-Driven Design book by Eric Evans. Because we didn't want to distract you by making an interesting example. Sometimes I do want that, but not today. And that example there's some orders, and orders have line items, and line items are for parts from this widget part production company.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have a process for tearing these off. It involves stepping on the top of the pad.
Okay.
There's some good big drawing paper over there, but we don't want good drawing paper, I guess. Beautiful. Where's your boring masking tape? It's right behind you. If it was a snake, it'd bit you right in the butt. If we think about the code that's changed, okay, so we have this example, there's the orders, and the line items, and the parts, and of course a part has a price, and the line item refers to a part, but in a naive implementation, we know this is naive, you might
An order might have line items, and a line item might have parts.
and the part has a price, And when a particular customer is like, oh, well, my competitor is selling it for this, you might need to update the price in order to fix their order. But oh, now you've just updated every order.
Every outstanding order, whatever. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Carry on, Lauren.
Yep. And then, right. Oh, you've updated every order. That's no good. So we'd better put copy the price.
Do we want to talk about blocking at all? Like,
I think blocking is worth a sentence.
Yeah, so then we start trying to
Maybe we
lock,
do that first.
We start starting to lock things at the line item level and the order level.
And then if you've got multiple users, so you've got multiple users, and you don't want them. You don't want them to hit conflicts on their database transactions, so we need locking. Do we lock at the line item? Do we lock the whole order? If they're gonna update the price for a part going forward, do we need to lock that? This is not.
I think we might want to tell this. So the point we want to get at is that could we have seen these problems earlier? And so I think we want to tell it in terms of, so then we tried locking, then we tried locking at various levels, and we found various types of contention, and eventually we realized, we need to copy the price in and treat, we need to draw the aggregate around these two. This is an aggregate, this is an aggregate, and we need to copy the price. What's hurting right now?
It's just I'm not seeing the precise path.
Right.
I'm not seeing a concrete thing to say. Do you want me to pull up another one?
I think so. Not sure where I'm going to put it, but yes.
Well, we can put it here. I have a whole lot of this somewhere. Kind of sideways here.
Yep.
I'm not seeing a concrete path, but I'm not also seeing that there isn't one.
Right.
It's just that I
It's not
also drank a
comfortable
lot
with it.
last night.
You what?
I also drank a lot last night. And what is nigging at me? And here we right.
I like the way that I'm thinking of telling it is, so we tried to lock at the line item level, we tried to lock at the, and that caused problems. We tried to lock at the order level, and that caused even more problems.
Yeah, line item level causes problems because we can't enforce order
deadlocks.
level rules.
Yeah.
Like minimum or maximum order value.
Right. Order level introduces some interesting contention when different orders share different products. Deadlock. You actually have deadlock scenarios there.
Oh.
Where because
if you do want to update the price.
Yeah.
Oh, if you include.
You get deadlock scenarios where you're recursively locking. Order down through line item down through part, and you've got embrace of death deadlock.
You can, yeah.
We don't want to go deep into that, but like
what I want to say is, these are all the kinds of, and eventually we found, we realized, DDD says find your aggregate roots. There's an aggregate root here, which is the order. And what if
we need consistency there? So the unit of failure, as the reactor book said, the unit of failure of no, you may not finalize this order is at the order level.
And so what if we made the order of an aggregate root and the product the part an aggregate root, and copy the price over? These are the kinds of data modeling problems that we run into all. This is a simple example, and you probably saw those issues. You probably saw those problems coming. But these are the kinds of data modeling issues that we run into all the time. Is there a way? And this is one of the trickiest problems in leveling up as a software designer is thinking through, predicting, exactly what they were asking me to do in that interview, predicting where the contentions are going to be, where the lines should be drawn between aggregate roots, between entities and aggregate roots, and our ways, and far too often the way we figure that out is simply by running into these problems. And then trying to rearrange, either putting more and more, special cases in, or doing painful refactorings to, once we discover where the lines really ought to be drawn.
Okay. So we're talking about the locking thing is about when do we allow this data to change? Because you can look at that static picture and you can look at order line item price or part with price on part and be satisfied with that until you start thinking about how it changes. And then you get into locking problems, and you get into contention, and you get into changing the price on the part shouldn't affect every order in the world, in fact.
And we try to reason through these things, but how do we do it? We stand in front of a whiteboard with boxes on it. And those boxes don't tell us anything about the story of our system. We have to think, either we apply some experience of stories that we've seen in the past, we try to make up a story with very little to go on if we've never seen a system like this in the past. If we're very rigorous in our process, maybe we draw some UML interaction diagrams.
Sequence diagrams don't totally suck. I like this.
But my favorite part of this,
we stand in front of a whiteboard and we and we look at boxes.
Yeah, that's the thing I wanna
Draw it. What
I
do
just
you-
want to write that down somewhere. We stand in front of
I got it. I got that. I'll write it down.
a whiteboard and
Okay.
we look at and maybe put a subnote there, like parentheses, static structure.
Whiteboard. And look at boxes. Yeah. And we think this isn't in the talk. We think that
Watch out.
that static structure expresses everything. We think that AI could be a judge. We think that static structure expresses everything, which causes us to think that object-oriented programming, if we just had enough objects, we could express everything.
We just had enough boxes.
Right. And focusing on objects as things, as static structures, which
Right.
yeah. Anyway, we stand in front of a whiteboard and look at boxes. We look at the static structure and try to tell stories about it. And it's painful. Maybe the static structure isn't the most useful thing to look at here. And then you want to turn it sideways?
There is a world here. There is a world that is hidden here. Wouldn't it be nice?
Oh, this is so beautiful.
Wouldn't it be nice? There's a world that is hidden here. Wouldn't it be nice if we could peer underneath?
Okay.
That's.
I think it would work, yeah, to peer underneath. I think it works to have the lifelines already there
Okay.
when we do that. We can see that an order comes into being and its line items come into being underneath it.
Right. There's
We can see that a part has existed for relatively eternity.
Right. Yeah. So, you say, oh, the timelines are already there, so we don't draw them out.
Yeah, I think the
Okay.
timelines are already there when we turn it.
Yeah. Okay. So what we see here. So here What if we extended this out along the axis? What if we extended these boxes out along the axis of time? What do we see? Well, we see that a part that we see lifetimes. And we see that a part exists for relatively ever.
Yeah.
And then we see,
The lifetime of the line item is entirely contained within the lifetime of the order.
yes, these are clumps.
It makes sense to draw a circle around it. And at this point, I could literally draw a circle around it,
Yeah.
but this way. And then we can turn back and see the circle around order and line item on the box if we want.
Okay.
Because I could draw the circle like this, like literally enclosed, looping
Mm-hmm.
the lanes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we can see that, and that's cool. And then the point being, the relationships in the data are the relationships, the aggregates in this case, the hierarchy, the power structure.
I'm not sure what you're getting at.
The power structure in the data are revealed by looking at its persistence through time. At how it changes.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, it's what I want to say is.
It is a power structure, isn't it?
Yeah. I just want to say, like,
Okay.
the units of grouping become very clear.
Units of grouping, the modules.
Yeah.
The module boundaries.
Module, but yeah, I mean that's a loose whip. Yeah.
I mean, in that particular example, we're talking about aggregate boundaries. So,
Yeah.
the aggregate boundaries.
In domain-driven design terms, but this is not a DDD conference. This is an Erlang conference, so we can say both words.
Right.
Okay, I don't actually know structurally. I don't know where exactly we want to go. I mean, broadly I do, but immediately from there, do we want to? So we at some point we
Looking at
want
the
to.
way the data changes teaches us how to write the code.
Mm.
That changes the data. The code is the next level up.
Oh, what about this? What if we said, is there something that is there something that interacts with these data models in this way, or that
perceives the data models this way all the time. It's called the code. No? Okay. Didn't land. But yeah, we want to get to the code. So the way we tell try this one on for size. The way we tell the story. So once we understand the story, the way we tell the story, the way we write the story of these data changes is with code.
Yeah, how we enact the story.
Enact the story.
And that's so looking at the change in the data makes it much more clear, not just how to model the data, but also how to write the code. Because the code is what changes the data.
Right.
It enacts this story. I like that.
So what we've seen is that that gets us to, and in a way this is a transition to the next level of our system. How do you want to? We want to make it clear that we have now found another level.
You know what? The graphic is going to make that clear.
Okay.
If we do one way or another, we will do a zooming out. We might do it in PowerPoint. We might do it in VR, but and a video. Are you rejecting some of your socks?
I was looking for the little ones. I didn't see them. I guess I could put on
Your
some of your
little
little
ones?
ones.
I don't know where your
I just want to. If I'm gonna be walking on this, I want socks on. My feet will try and pull it
Oh,
out.
like okay.
Well, they'll get it cruddy, and they'll also pull it up.
I think that moving up the level of the system is going to be visual
Okay.
rather than getting super explicit about it.
Okay.
Teaches us right, but we get more than just data modeling out of thinking about the way data changes over time, because it changes over time in code,
Yeah.
and so this helps us figure out how to write the code. And then we want to show the events.
Oh, right. Before we get away from the diagram. Okay. Before we shift levels.
Before
Right.
we
Sorry.
shift levels.
Before we shift levels,
We want to say, yeah. So what if? Yeah. We want to get to events, so we say, we can. Yeah, at some point in there, we want to say, and we can identify.
Walk over here.
Yeah. Events. In this timeline. We can annotate these lines
Right.
with domain events.
Yeah. We can see more over time than just
While we're here, we
creation
can.
and retirement.
Yeah. These are lifetimes, but we can also these are object. What we've drawn here is object lifetimes, but we can also see these as event. We can start to identify events.
Janet becomes human when she starts having friends.
Okay.
Sorry. That's what moves her from being just a robot, not a robot.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Hmm.
When she starts having friends, that's where she starts deviating from
Mhm.
her programming. Because she becomes something different. because
Okay.
of
So
other
what you're saying is
persons.
to actually achieve AI, we need to give it friends.
Yeah. And I could have AI friends. I mean,
True.
most of like the good image identification algorithms get trained on image generation algorithms.
Mhm. Right.
Yeah. Anyway,
Anyway.
sorry, that was completely not related.
I mean, we
So-
could make it related, but we have a lot of ideas.
We can do
already.
that with everything.
We can.
This weekend has been an exercise in. This isn't about our talk, but wait, maybe it is. Events show up in the timeline. We can put events in the timeline.
Yeah.
We can talk about start a new order, add items to the order, obviously, and then there's like authorize the order.
Yeah.
And then there's send it off to fulfillment
Yeah.
at the end. And it gets archived and can't change anymore, which makes it dead, which means its lifetime is over, which is why
Right.
it disappears.
Right.
Actually, that's kind of cute. That's kind of cute.
And so, I mean, where I want to get to is I want to make make the swim lane, the lanes and the timelines disappear.
Right, which we can do.
And then I want to say, so what if instead of drawing boxes, what if we started?
With these events.
What if we started our modeling with these events? That's called temporal modeling. Reference Matthias. And there are practices for helping a team do this. That's called event storming. Reference. I'll look that up. Alberto. Yeah, friendly. Yeah. And so what
it's
we.
so fun that the authors of these books are like people we know.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I met both now. I think. I don't know if I met Alberto.
Okay, he was there when I was with EDDD.
It amuses me that there's a King DDD character in Super Smash Brothers.
Oh, King DDD. Yeah.
King DDD.
Yeah. DEDEDE.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, what we've seen. Try this on for size. What we've seen here is that we're getting water on the paper when we do that. We should probably drink over here.
It's fine.
I'm so fastidious. Except when I'm not, which is most of the time. Anyway. I get fastidious about the dumbest things. What we've seen is that if we project a static design,
I don't know exactly where you're going, so I'm gonna hush. Ooh, there's a dead bean.
Anyway, the point. Okay, so we could start from these events, and we could discover our.
And that's a nail. Okay, that stinks.
We could discover our aggregates much more easily
If we just started from these events.
if we just started from these events. And as a matter of fact, that's something you can do. It's called temporal modeling, and there's a practice for helping a team work through it. It's called event storming.
It's a hell of a lot better than trying to translate than requirements gathering translated into boxes.
Yes. So, the lesson here, the first lesson here is that projecting out along the axis of time helps us discover the next level, taking events and projecting.
Makes us better at data modeling.
Makes us better.
And it helps us see how to design the next level up, which is the code.
It helps us tell a story about the system, which helps us design. And then we can formalize the.
Then we enact that story.
Then we enact.
Code.
Yes. Okay. So this helps us tell the story of the system. Do we actually? Yeah. We have everyone who needs to be storytellers. This helps us tell the story of the system, which we enact into code, which we enact with code, and so it got us to. And that gets us to the next level, where we can see the code as the next level of organization.
The story of the data. We enact that story in code. So this also helps us write better code.
Right.
change the data personally. My job isn't to model the data. What's interesting is that it changes. It changes, but I don't change it personally.
Mm-hmm.
I write code to do that. So my job is writing code.
Yeah, there's a probably an even better transition in there of like, we can see the story of this. The story of this data is a story of changes to the data. So, our job isn't to model. Our job is not to model
It's a
data.
model. It's to change the data.
It's to change the data. Now we don't do that ourselves.
Yeah,
I don't
that
do
would be a lot of
myself.
typing.
That would be a lot of work, very tedious. We do that with code. So that brings us to the code level.
Which is good because we probably all know that our job is writing code,
Right?
right? Except, how do we write code? With typing. And our job is not typing. I say this in about 6 of my talks, and I'll just keep saying it because it works. You can tell because we don't type all day, and most of what we type we delete. Our job is deciding what to type.
Yeah. So our job is not.
And in fact, we don't do a whole lot of writing code. What we do a lot of is changing code. And if we want to get better at changing code, or actually, if we want to get better at writing code, even if we stick with that, if we want to get better at understanding code, the code that we write, the code that we change, let's turn it on its side again. Let's not just look at the static boxes of code in front of us. Let's look at how it changes. And I love Git for this because Git actually lets me see, to some degree, the progression of code over time.
Right.
It lets me express, for instance, that it's not a linear sequence of changes, that there are branches and merges and coming togethers, and we didn't have to lock the code this whole time. This is good. Our job really isn't writing code, hardly ever. It's changing code. And so we're looking at the story of the code now. Okay, so we look at the story of the code. Oh, we can add some events here. Those are deploys.
Mm.
Oh, hey, would you take that? This is under there. To compensate for the rug that's no longer there. Okay. All right. Oh, my brain hurts. I need. What day is it? What time is it?
It's 1400.
Okay, we have D&D in an hour.
Are we doing it 3?
Yeah, which is fine. I'm not prepping.
Yeah.
We're just gonna have some encounters in the woods, whatever. I did enough prep last week. I don't know. I'm stuck. And I want tea.
Okay. Let's go downstairs and make tea.
You want to come down for tea too?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll put this on
Okay.
BRB.
money diagram at the beginning of this book is shearing layers of change. So that's in a house. Maybe it was in his other book about the Long Now. Shoot, which I have on Kindle. Where Stuart Brand talks about layers. Nature is the slowest,
Oh, right, yeah.
and then like government and infrastructure and commerce. Each layer gets faster, and then fashion.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so we decided we're not going to try to get too like forceful on these layers are the same. This transition is the same. We just think it's a cute trick.
Yeah, we have a neat trick.
That whenever you care about something, think about how it changes over time. Think about how the code changes. This is what we're doing. Notice some events in here. Some events would be deploys, for instance.
Particularly when you want to design something. Right? Because started out trying to figure out how to design our entities, our data entities.
Yeah. Don't just design a static picture of it.
Yeah.
Design a story.
Yeah.
Tell its story.
We have storytelling, but I don't design a story.
Don't design a thing, design a story. Don't design a picture of a thing. Design its story. Because we need to bring it into being. Fuck leaf blowers, okay? Fuck them. Oh, God. Oh. Okay, Jess, you are in a spaceship. This is the workings of the spaceship. It's stupid workings of the spaceship. You'd think it wasn't even built by humans because they care so little for human hearing frequencies. Alright.
Yeah, design a story. So yeah, I mean, we're talking at each level. We are talking about like if you care about designing the thing.
You need to care about its story.
Yeah, and we're not saying design
If
the
you
next
really
level up.
care
We're
about-
saying
Oh.
we're
Yeah,
saying
design the thing. If you care about the thing itself.
yeah.
And when you think about its story, you have to think about who else is affected by that story.
Yeah.
So what's affected by the deploy? I mean, why are we doing that at all? What lends meaning to it?
Yeah.
Oh, the code does lend meaning to the data.
Yeah, so I mean, that's another thing that we want to, I think, emphasize is this lending of meaning. That the
What is a meaning in the story of the data? Well, that's in the code. That depends what the code does with the data.
yeah, and we could even phrase it. We could even formulate it as in order to design a thing, we need to find its meaning. We need to understand its meaning. In
What's
order to
it
understand
mean?
its meaning, we need to see its story.
Yeah, we need to think about its story. I really like that with the data, and then the code. Because in general, in our culture, we think way too much about pictures of static things and not enough about change over time in stories. Artie says, good code is code that's easy to change. Yes. Oh, good. And we did get T. G-Paw says hi.
Oh, hi,
Hi,
G-Paw.
G-Paw. If he's still there. Oh, and he also hates leaf blowing. Good idea. Yeah, the fucking leaf isn't hurting your driveway. You know what else can move it out of your driveway? A broom!
Yes. Speaking of
Or a rake.
as someone who has swept about a quarter mile of driveway, that is absolutely a thing you can do. Find its meaning to.
Yeah. Well, you know what would be worse? It would be worse if I had to use the leaf blower. That would suck way more.
Would it? Because you wouldn't be taken by surprise whenever it revved.
Yeah, but it would be right next to it. Ugh. Also, I would feel bad about myself as an agent in the world. Sorry, I'm making your life suck more. It's just my job. Okay. The tea is good. It is a good oolong.
Or tell its story. You know, of course, story. Tell its story.
Right. And a lot of this, okay. This is a hard thing to describe. We are describing something hard
Yeah.
and something counterintuitive to our culture, which is the whole point of describing it at all.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not easy.
Right. I just want to see the comments.
We have, I read them too.
Oh, right. They don't work.
That would be useful. Come here, you have yogurt on your mustache.
You want?
Maybe I should trim it again.
Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, sleepy nut.
No.
Okay.
I'm doing this.
We're doing this. Yeah, we're only doing this for a few more minutes because
Yeah.
we have D&D at 3 anyway.
I did.
This is a hard thing.
It's a hard thing.
Sometimes it helps me to just accept that what I'm doing is hard,
Mm-hmm.
and then I don't expect it to just flow.
Yeah. I mean, we're making this thing up. We're
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, we're making this up.
We're not like
We're totally
describing
making
a
this
thing that we found.
Yeah.
This isn't like a pattern that we observed in the wild. I mean, it sort of is.
Well, isn't
it
it?
sort of isn't.
But I guess the other thing, a lot of what we're trying to get across is that the pattern's not the same. What's same is that there is a pattern. This is very abstract. Right. So I wanted to mention that in the data, you have tables and rows, and then you have joins, and then you have joins to joins, and then in the code you have functions, and you have functions within functions.
Oh, yeah.
I just wanted to mention here and there the elements that are fractal, not to come back, in order to come back to it later and say, you can have services, calling services, calling services, calling services. That's fractal. But the layers don't work the same way. The way we work at each layer is not the same. We can deal in transactions at the data layer, but not in the code. The code might die. We can think in functions in the code, but you don't think in applications in terms of functions.
Yeah.
And then you get to RPC. No, it's a different model. It is distributed, and you need to think in terms of messages.
Right.
And then at the software system level, I don't know. My brain is stuck.
So failures of fractal include things like RPC, distributed transactions.
Yeah.
And big agile.
Big agile. Oh yeah, that's our favorite. The part where agile, no, in fact, you do not scale agile to your enterprise. It works differently at the higher level. Teams are special because the specialist level is the individual human, and teams are adjacent to that, so they're very special.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, same comment.
Okay, do you want to just like,
Is it 3 o'clock yet?
do you want to just group some, or play around with some stickies?
A few of these actually have places. Most of them are describing the meta pattern.
They're not doing us any good on
Don't
bed.
have a specific place. Well, right, and we'll want to lie down at some point.
Mhm.
Code is waste and isolation. Okay. Do you want to draw the levels on here
Like,
for the sequence at the top? I don't know.
yeah.
Well, we don't have to
well,
draw them. Let's sticky them.
Okay. Big stickies.
Oh, I have big stickies. Hold on.
Sweet.
I have some serious big stickies. Boom. They're not the biggest stickies in
Nice.
the world, but they're close.
They're pretty damn big. Okay, so first level is design data, right?
Right. So
Are
we're
we gonna
talking
phrase it?
about-
Do we want? I was downstairs. I was
Yeah?
suggesting that we phrase it in terms of design this, design this, design this. So
Okay.
design data, design code.
I like that.
No, because we want to say change at some points. Okay, how are we going to do this to make this have a shape, a consistent shape? The talk have a consistent shape. When do we say design? When do we say change?
Oh. Design is unless you're designing change. Okay. Oh. All right.
Design the
so
data.
there's
We
a
look at what changes it.
distinction between designing a picture of a thing,
Mm-hmm.
such as a destination or a landing zone, and the data model and the code and files, versus designing the story.
Yeah.
These are both design.
Right.
These are both design, but there's designing a destination, like the data model,
Yeah.
and there's designing a story,
Yes.
which is designing change.
Okay, maybe we don't put a prefix on these yet. Maybe we just have data.
Or I just want to put the post-its somewhere. So data is at the beginning.
Get rid of those things at the top. I was starting to
They're fine.
do sequence and
They're fine. The interview story is early before we even talk about data. Data models is up here. Okay.
okay, data,
Code.
code.
Code, and then software system. I could call it application, but I want to talk about something broader.
Yes. Yeah, I was going to ask, do we want to say application, system,
It's specifically software systems.
software system? Okay.
I mean, everything here is a system.
Right. Do we want to say that's, so we're saying that's something that might be composed of multiple services?
Yeah, and possibly multiple applications.
Yeah.
Construct enough state to respond to the queries you'll receive and accept that solving this in the general case is probably impossible. That's liberating. The difficulty of a full data model is that you can never look at all of it at once anyway.
Okay. Business system.
Software system, it forks. It's part of a business system. Our pyramid, our papers got wider here too, so this works out.
Okay.
And then there's us. And by us, I mean the people changing the software system. Done is dead is about at the software system level. And so team is over here by us. And that's probably the highest level we talk about. There's also like the outside world, I guess. I don't know if this is in the talk, but it looks nice and parallel if I put that over here.
Okay.
Okay, but a lot of this is transactions exist to restrict reality. Oh, that's data. Code is waste and isolation. That's code. Path to growth is out. That's everything. Find the next level by projecting outward. That's everything. Common pattern of switching levels. Yeah, that's the same thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of duplicates here.
That's fine. Sell a change. Ooh, training, marketing, teaching. That's here. There's Seth. Teams to rub off on each other. Agile. Well, that's only half of one. We all need to be storytellers. That's everything, but it also
Yeah,
says
also
marketing.
here's
So
here's look for story.
to design a thing, find its meaning, see meaning with your story. Don't design a picture of a thing. Design a story. That's everything, but yeah, that's everything at least up here. Marketing is trying to make your future. Okay, this is like literally like that, except worse. I got it in.
Nice.
This is only half. Oh, but it's supposed to. Okay. Redesign change from the inside. I'm putting that at us. Don't forget to dance. That's at the end. Okay. I'm gonna put these elements of designing change here.
Oh, that's what those are. Okay.
Yeah. I put them on our post-its because I wanted to tie them together. Alright. As we progress in our careers, we go up in scope and abstraction. We have to learn new mindsets. I'm gonna put that in us.
I don't know if this is make it.
Trying to push rigidity upward is painful. Even in our apps, the future is not evenly distributed. I guess that's here. What you ask about reveals your priorities. That's over here. To find your meaning, go back and forwards in time. See where the larger system intersects you. Orders are finalized by people. I think that's mostly general. Production grade is in how the software changes, not a static property. That is changing code. Okay, yeah.
Color that we haven't used yet. We haven't used these line ones much. I want to like capture a few of the recurring
Yeah?
themes in a different way.
Yeah, you want a memo? So probably this
Okay.
is gonna stand out. We only use those for, I use those for, UML.
Yeah.
Learning looks like waste afterward. I'm not sure what level that's at. I'm gonna put it at people.
So
Our job is changing code.
story.
Here. These systems are not fractal. Fractal models work within a level. That's here. With these things.
Snapshots.
We are not converging on perfection. Oh yeah, that's okay. We want our code to be malleable. Do we choose to let ourselves be malleable? That goes with us. It's easy to say broaden your perspective, but the way you do that isn't in space. That's like this. Mindsets are not fractal again. That is the other half of the anger about agile scaling, which I've lost again. That's fine. Static persons don't design change. That's all about this. Change change requires destroying the feeling of safety and complacency. That's here. Better is defined by the next level, or more appropriate. You don't want to be constrained by the future. That's about big design up front, which I think is at the software system level mainly. Designing the endpoint is in conflict with designing change. Also, you don't get better teams by putting them around with better teams. Well, that's obviously the team level. We do not change ourselves in an imperative way. That's the people level. Events show in the timeline. So we started in front of a whiteboard and look at boxes. That's a better thing than this. Reduce discomfort. Change the context, change the thing. That other team level. All right. Sometimes duplication just lets me put them in multiple spots.
True.
Order sent to fulfillment can't change anymore, so it's dead.
Yeah.
That later we come back to done is dead. Enact that story in code. Okay, that is directly there. That transition. We think engineering's rigorous deterministic planned. That's hindsight. With that. Oh, the faster down as an axis, that's general. Software systems change reality, create new worlds, that's here. Designing change means changing the context, not the thing itself.
Cool.
That's mostly on us.
I'm gonna put here.
The code level, we do functional functions to
I've got some stuff about fractal over here, right?
Yeah, here's the agile bit. That goes here. Nope, that's not it. Your work has no value. Writing code is worth nothing. Code is waste and isolation. Spend time at every level. Zoom in, zoom out. I think that's general. For code to change data, think about the data through time. That's that. Discourse, general. Although I would like to move discourse into examples of discourse at each.
Ooh, is discourse a running theme?
Yeah, I want a running theme of discourse, and at most levels, that's just a sentence.
Mm-hmm.
When we talk about data, we say things like transactions. When we talk about code, we say things like functions. When we talk about software systems, we say things like, we can freeze data, but it's painful. If we freeze the software, we go out of business. That's about don't project, freeze data, like the data model. That's here.
Discourse is related to paradigm. The discourse gives us the clue.
Right.
To the paradigm.
We want the paradigm to like the discourse. It exactly. The code, we talk about functions. We talk about tests.
G-Pause says, when we talk about software systems, we say things like fuck, oh shit, god damn it.
Awesome.
That's the discourse.
I say that about code too.
I say that about hardware. You say that about hardware a lot.
I do. Impactful systems are teachable in relation to a broader.
Still not sure what that's about. We don't have to keep it.
It goes to the meaning point. Yeah, so snapshots versus stories. These are like in opposition, right?
Oh yeah, good point. And fractals is in opposition
Okay, good.
to discourse and paradigms.
Okay. Yeah. Levels has the meaning. Rigor looks different at the different levels. Rigor means checking. That's here with customer support. Big
those
design
tiny
up front is about designing a destination.
Yeah.
That's here. We don't want to be constrained by the future. That is here. Errors go between the software system to us. Better or more appropriate is both external and internal, where software treats us matters. That's also in that transition. You can be great at changing one system or good at changing yourself to get good at changing systems. That's person level. This is designing change, changing. I'm gonna put that at the end with don't forget to dance. We're not just designing the next snapshot of the code, we're designing change. That's here. Snapshots get harder at larger scales. That was snapshots, I guess. Alright. Snapshots. Alright, that's a good. Oh, nice. I like the arrow. Paradigms have a discourse. Here I have a diagram with some services talking to UI. I don't know about that. When we design code, we aren't designing systems, we design subsystems. That's general. But I want to put it at the software system level. Locking the system to make deploys transactional. Okay, yeah, that's a snapshots thing.
Yeah,
Right
it's
between
also
code
it's a
and software system. Jumping a level of abstraction by stretching it along the axis of time.
Do we want to talk about making the change first class?
Oh, that was interesting, wasn't it?
I was reading about that this morning. I don't know if
That's what we're doing when we talk about events.
Mm.
It's what we're doing when we talk about feature flags.
Okay.
It's what we're doing, I don't know, at a higher level than that.
Okay.
But I wanna mention that.
I was going to put some little tinies.
Oh yeah?
To,
Okay.
To
Oh,
annotate
the
those.
examples of that?
Yeah.
Nice. Change yourself, change your surroundings. It's about changing us. Observability as a top-down constraint is enabling. I don't know if that even belongs. Oh.
We haven't said much. We haven't returned to observability much.
No.
What was the other? Make the change first. Oh, events, right?
Looking a static structure doesn't bring us to the right abstractions as well. Right. Yeah, we've got snapshots get harder at larger scales. That's true. All of this, you have to break this out in time, not up. Find the next level by projecting outward in time. That's all about snapshots versus stories.
Yeah.
You have to be able to see behind the curtain in order to write the curtain. I enjoy that. It means you do need to think at the next level downward.
Yeah. Yeah, which was the thing that we talked about very early on, was like thinking a level down and a level up. We talk about that a lot. Zooming.
Yeah, and it is painful. Higher levels change more slowly. That's this. Give smaller systems safety. Yeah, and that is like enabling change at several levels. It goes into escaping top-down constraints on change. Yes. So yeah, I have several. Yeah, just making sure the levels are divided and get to change at different rates is really important.
Yeah.
And if you try to make the whole system fractal, you lose that.
Right. Right.
The level above provides the meaning, the level below provides the means. It's over here with levels. That is a cute words. Okay.
Beaumont.
That's our post-its. There they are.
Awesome. And now it is 1500.
Okay. Well, stop the stream. I'm going to take a picture of this and put it on Twitter. Because I did that yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Except maybe you will because, where's my phone?
Bye, everybody.
Oh, here it is.